Welcome to Connect to Joy. Your host, Carol DeChaine, is an intuitive spiritual guide for practical matters and marconic multidimensional energy practitioner. Her quest is to help you realize new possibilities, discover and release what holds you back, and enable you to manifest an inspired life filled with joy. Join us on this journey of transformation. Now, here's your host, Carol DeChaine.
This week, it's all about finding patience. When you're talking about patience, impatience comes to mind as well, of course, because if you don't have one, you generally have the other one. So no matter who you are, at some point in time, you probably needed to find patience, at least from time to time. Sometimes we don't have patience with people. Maybe your children or your spouse or your boss or even someone you don't know is driving you crazy. Well, our patience is at kind of a premium, right? It just sort of takes a little less to let it go. People on the phone that you're talking to, people in line, so many different people can kind of make us lose our patience. It might be a situation like being stuck in traffic or in a job that's going nowhere, and just the work itself is driving you crazy. So we all do lose our patience. We get impatient from time to time. But some people kind of get impatient quite a bit, maybe almost constantly. And the more impatient we get, the more stressed out we get, the more anxious and especially frustrated that we can get. And sometimes things that start out with a minor type of impatience can blow up all out of proportion. Sometimes people have anger management issues and it just takes a little thing to spark them. So the impatience hits and then they go right to anger. Road rage is, after all, kind of a result of impatience that's gone to the extreme. My mom used to say, "God grant me patience, but I want it now." And then she'd laugh because it's sort of a prayer, but it's also kind of the opposite of what patience is supposed to be about, right? I want patience now. Give me patience now. I got what you meant. And I mean, after all, you need it when you need it, right? How do we find patience when we need it? Well, there are lots of ways, and you can definitely learn patience and how to acquire it. So today, I'm going to talk about the ins and outs of impatience, including the causes and the symptoms. When do you get impatience? When do you individually get impatient? Because knowing yourself is half the battle. When you understand the causes of your impatience, you can kind of develop strategies to prevent or overcome it so you then can have the patience, right? That's what you're looking for. I'm going to give you 3 long-term strategies to make patience a habit, so kind of longer term that you can put into effect immediately, and then 12 helpful hacks to use when you need patience right now. When you go, I don't have time to wait for this, I want it now. And finally, if you stay to the end, I'm going to give you the secret to finding patience, something you may not have thought about. So first, what is patience? I got definitions from 2 different places. Mindtools.com, I really enjoy them when I read some of their stuff. Their definition is patience is the ability to stay calm while you're waiting for an outcome that you need or want. It's like, okay, I like Google's definition a little better. Theirs says, patience is the capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering without getting upset or angry. And I'll add without getting frustrated, because that's my number one thing. What is impatience? It's a feeling of, obviously, frustration when something doesn't go the way you want it to, when someone isn't reacting the way you want them to, when they're maybe holding the controls and they're in control of what you're doing and you can't make something happen. What they're doing or who they are is not rising to your expectations. You get maybe a little impatient. If you feel your needs and your wishes are being ignored or just maybe not fulfilled, you might get impatient. But what really causes your impatience? One of the things that came up every time I would Google impatience was everybody wants instant gratification. And they don't get it. They want everything to happen right now. I mean, now that we have emails and texting, if people don't respond right away, it's like, what's the matter with them? Are they sick? Are they mad at me? What's going on? We want them to reply in the first 5 minutes, and 2 minutes is better. When we call people on the phone, we want them to answer. I don't care what they're doing. Answer the phone. I want to talk to you. When you see it all the time, people pick up the phone at inopportune times. They're on a date, they answer their stupid phone. They text back to people. They can wait, but it causes impatience in the person that's waiting for you. I mean, we're used to fast food, right? Food fast. We're used to same-day delivery. If things are delayed, we might get impatient, and we probably will to a certain extent. But you might get impatient faster if you're really tired, if you're exhausted, or believe it or not, if you're hungry or thirsty. So if you start getting impatient, have some water, have a snack, see if that helps. You never know how much that's impacting you without trying the water or the food, because if you think back of when you ate last, that may be a clue. But the water thing, people don't even realize unless they start getting a sore throat that they're thirsty. We have to realize that people aren't doing what we want them to, and that causes impatience. They don't come up to our expectations. We want them to do something, and they're not following through. Maybe we get impatient because there's a miscommunication with someone. You mean one thing, they understand something different, or vice versa. A bad mood can really impact how you respond to other people, how you take it out on others. Because if you start with a bad mood, impatience is going to be your buzzword. Impatience will not even be on your radar. Stress, anxiety, and burnout really causes impatience. So what are the symptoms of patience? I think they're kind of obvious, right? If you have patience, you feel kind of peaceful. Nothing really bothers you. Just good. Everything's going okay. We're doing well. But the symptoms of impatience, well, the emotional ones, we might get, obviously, I already mentioned it, frustrated. But we may have anger. We may even cry because we're so frustrated. We may feel so impatient that you get to that, maybe you're anxious, you're irritable. You might even get rude if you're impatient. The people on the phone that are trying to help you may not be helping you. You might get rude and say, I want your supervisor. But you might be nasty to them because you're emotionally impatient with them. Usually frustration is the most obvious symptom. It's kind of the first symptom. Most people don't go straight to anger. So if you want to notice when you're starting to get impatient, that's the way to be aware when you're starting to get a little frustrated with somebody. It's kind of like how you know when you have allergies, when you start sneezing, or you have a cold, when you start coughing or have a sore throat. When you get frustrated, you're starting to lose your patience. So that's a good hint for you. The symptoms that happen physically is when you get impatient, you might start having a faster heartbeat. You might start breathing a little faster. You might get kind of clenching in your stomach, maybe a little heart pain. We get muscle tension. I mean, it's like, maybe your hands clench and you're going, oh, come on, come on, come on. But you might get something that I've had before is a bouncing foot. I have this kind of a jiggling foot. It just goes when I get impatient with somebody, if I'm sitting just right. And that's another clue for me. It's like, oh, stop it, breathe. It's okay. The psychological symptoms, though, are a little more deeper. We feel impatience, and we might feel that way because we feel unimportant. We don't feel that person is paying attention to us. Maybe we feel powerless. And our self-esteem may really slip. So the symptoms, they can kind of get to you in different ways. The thing I want to mention is that if your symptoms are any of the next group I'm going to talk about, you may be having a higher anxiety or stress level that's kind of exacerbating your tolerance. So your patience is just shorter than it usually is. So when you notice that it's shorter than it usually is, this may be why. So you may find yourself feeling more frustrated and annoyed than normal, either with situations that normally don't bother you or with people. Maybe you have kids and you normally roll your eyes or make a joke with them, but instead you get angry at them or you snap at them and you normally wouldn't. Maybe your spouse will say, hey, calm down. And you're going, you just can't take it as much because you're just in a different place. Maybe work got to you or something happened and all of a sudden you're just more anxious and stressed out. If your patience runs out quicker, you might be aware of it. You might overreact to situations, like I said, about the kids that normally wouldn't bother you. Even the slightest irritation could set you off. And you may not see it, but others around you are going to go, hey, geez, what's up with you? What are you doing? Oh my God, stop doing that. And even minor issues, they might make you highly upset or annoyed or even angry. So just be aware if your patience seems more minimal than normal. Look around and see what's stressing you out. Don't let it impact your life that way. You want to see what's setting you off so that you can breathe and go, okay, that's separate from the way I'm treating this person or this situation. I don't need to get stressed out. So if you normally aren't that way, but you are now, something is definitely happening. That's different. So just be aware of that. Now I'm going to tell you the benefits of patience. At work, you're more likely that people will want to work with you. You'll seem steady and dependable, easygoing, even focused, and, well, generally more likable, just in general. You'll seem more empathic and like you care about people more and like you have good people skills. And let me say, I don't really think there are any benefits of impatience. If you're impatient quite a bit, the results will probably be that you'll seem more volatile and rude and even arrogant. You might seem impulsive to people or insensitive. They might think you need anger management or just that you're obnoxious. And you may interrupt people, be short with them, especially on the phone. You might seem unkind or even like you know it all and the other person doesn't. Being impatient frequently, this is from mindtools.com, it frequently or inappropriately can harm your reputation, damage your relationships, increase stress, and even escalate a difficult situation. This question is about when do you get impatient? I mean, if you notice when you lose your cool, it'll help you find out how you need to kind of shift how you're feeling about things. I'm going to give you a list of some things that might impact you so you can be clear and honest with yourself about which ones you kind of know, you kind of go, oh yeah, that one kind of bugs me. Make yourself a list or come back and listen to it again so that you know how you connect to these things. What pushes your buttons so you lose your patience? So I'm going to do people first. How many of these people do you lose your buttons with? How many of these do you lose your patience with? How about your ex or multiple exes? Ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, ex-spouse. How about your children or children in general? Do they push your buttons? Your parents, your mother, your father, your stepmother, your stepfather. Even if it's just in your head and you vibrate inside and you don't say anything, that's losing your patience. How about customer service people? Or maybe anyone who doesn't have a job that they seem to know what they're doing or have enough information to provide to you to help you. Maybe your boss sets you off or certain coworkers. People who are late might set you off, especially if they're habitually late and you're an on-time kind of person. Or if you're early, they really annoy you. Maybe someone who doesn't do what they say they will. They aren't there for you when they say they will be or make promises they don't keep. And what about those people we consider bad drivers? Do you lose patience with them? Maybe slow learners? People who don't communicate well might drive you crazy. Or people with bad habits that maybe you think they should quit complaining and do something about because they're driving you crazy. Or people that do things differently than you do. Do any of those people make you lose your patience? Or I should say, how many of those people do, because I'm sure at least one type of them do in general. And now I'm going to give you some situations that might hit you. If you're waiting on hold on the telephone and there's 50 callers in front of you, do you lose your patience? How about doing online research for something? Whether it's for a project or just something you want to buy, maybe you don't know where to go and it's frustrating. Or maybe it's fun, so maybe you don't lose your patience. Long lines make people lose it sometimes. Certain words or phrases that people use might get to you. They might set your teeth on edge, so you may or may not lose your patience and snap at somebody. My phrase that gets me every time, I don't always say something, but sometimes it's like, in my head, I grit my teeth a little bit. It's something silly. It's pardon my French. Those are the words, because I'm half French, and I also have took French language for 13 or 14 years when I was in school. I forget how many years. And that language is so beautiful that it makes me grit my teeth. So you may have something, a word, a phrase, maybe a swear word you hate, something that makes you go, ugh, and makes you lose patience with someone or with the situation. Maybe you lose patience because you don't get computers. Maybe you use Zoom now and you hate it. You name it. It could be smartphones you think are really stupid because you can't understand them and you don't know how to use them properly. People even lose patience while they're waiting for their computer to boot up. or for software to load, or heavens forbid, the updating process takes for freaking ever sometimes. Maybe you lose your patience then. Having repair work done, maybe to your car, or a renovation to your home. I remember one time when I was working with a particular boss, I swear he was driving me crazy. He would lose his patience with me constantly at one point, and I was going, this is not him. What is he doing? So I finally said to him, what is the matter with you? I never talk like that. I said, what is the matter with you? I can't seem to do anything right, and you're so losing your patience with me. What is happening? And he looked at me and he went, I said, what's stressing you out? And he said, oh, it must be the renovation. He literally was renovating like 2/3 of his house, and it was driving him crazy, and he was so stressed out. He lost his patience with me constantly, which was not him at all. Maybe traffic gets you. Maybe shopping. You hate shopping. You get impatient when you're shopping, or maybe you get impatient when you're waiting for somebody else you go with who's shopping. That's why they have those chairs so people can sit down now and play on their phones. Maybe you bring a book. That was the old days. Bring a book while you're waiting for somebody. Maybe you get impatient with just unexpected things that show up, with roadblocks, change of plans. Canceled vacations stress me out. They piss me off because you're looking forward to something. You're really expecting it to happen. You're anticipating it, getting all excited, and then it's cut short or it's canceled, especially nowadays with what's been happening. All the cruises were canceled. All sorts of things have been canceled. So which ones make your list? Go back and listen again if you need to and write down what makes you lose your cool. Once in a while is nothing, but if you can see a pattern, write it down. And there's going to be other specific people or categories as well that may hit you. When they happen to you and you go, oh, there's another one, losing my patience, I got to add that to the list. That way you'll be able to see it, and it'll be easier to deal with them when you know what causes you impatience. So what else is on your list? Something may be coming to you right now, so write it down or remember it. How often do you get impatient? Is it once in a while, or is it more often than you'd like? And how do you react? Do you react just slightly, a little bit of a roll your eyes a little bit? Or do you react more strongly? Do you count to 10 or maybe you leave the room? Do you blow off steam somehow? Maybe you kick the cat or the dog or you punch the wall or somehow to hopefully not hurt anybody or anything. But maybe you blow up sometimes or scream in frustration. That one actually works pretty well. The screaming in frustration, if you're yelling at stupid drivers and you're going, and you're letting it out. But make sure that your windows aren't rolled down because they might be able to hear you. And then you've got somebody else reacting to your anger. And you don't really need that. So look at how you handle your impatience. Are you calm, angry, upset? Do you just grit your teeth and then breathe and move through it? Because everybody has it. If it impacts you beyond the moment you're in and follows you through the day, it's something you need to work on. And I'm actually, I think I'm going to give you the secret answer to finding patience now instead of waiting for later in the show, because I think it's going to help you understand the rest of the show better. I've done better with finding patience when I realized I don't need to struggle to find it. I mean, you can practice and achieve patience pretty well, but it may take a while because the secret is it's a byproduct. Patience is a byproduct. If you can work on having more peace, more love, or more joy in your life, you'll find that, patience, it just happens. The higher you raise your vibration, the more you'll shake off that lower feelings of anger and frustration, and the more patience you'll just have. You won't even have to think about having it. You don't move from that place of peace into impatience or frustration. You just don't. You stay in the place of peace until something shakes you out of it. Those things and people and situations that used to bother you, they simply won't bother you anymore. And you may or may not even realize it, but you'll look back after you make that shift into that more peaceful place, and then you'll see the difference. Then you'll go, oh, look, how come that's not bothering me anymore? What brings you peace and joy and love? If you start spending more time doing those things, sprinkling more of that into your life, even if it's just a bit by bit time that you do it, check and see if impatience doesn't become a lesser and lesser thing in your life, and maybe even go away altogether. I found this quote I wanted to say, and I don't see anywhere who actually said it, but I really like it. It says, "The hardest test in life is having the patience to wait for the right moment." Sometimes that's another thing that'll set us off. We're impatient to start something, impatient to get somewhere, impatient to get to the end of the story or to the end of the journey. We aren't willing to take the journey for what it is and allow ourselves to have the patience to get where we're going and to have that right moment show up for whatever it is we want to do. It is a test. It's only a test. You're not going to fail it. It's going to be fine. But having patience is something that you can actually have strategies for. So let me get into the first long-term strategy. So the first one is practicing patience. This is the tougher way rather than just going straight for finding peace, but it may sound more familiar. So start with something small that only bothers you just a little bit, a person or an issue, and then practice on larger things that bother you. Practice them as they come up, realizing that, I'm aware now, I can do it, I can practice this. Maybe subject yourself to a person or an issue that normally bothers you so you can practice. Go in with that feeling. I always see this one friend, they always annoy me. I'm going to find a way. Knowing that's the case, I'm going to prepare myself in advance and practice. So the second long-term strategy is to increase your empathy for other people. When you feel good and you have patience, look at people at that point and not when you have the impatience, and try to figure out why they're acting the way they are. Especially people that you know. Try and put yourself in their shoes. Because once you understand why, when someone acts out again or in a specific way, you may totally shift your reaction to them because you have this new understanding. And if you get who they are and why they're acting that way, your compassion may come forth. Your empathy for that person will get stronger. And you may not have the impatience you had in the past because of it. It specifically helps for people that talk about one thing all the time, one problem, and you're going, I'm tired of hearing about this. I need to stop talking about it. Look at that issue for that person. See if that helps you go, oh, I get it. They had this thing. I see what's deeper. And maybe you just decide you're going to switch subjects on them. But some people just need to talk about things that bother them all the time. So maybe if that's what sets you off, you find a way to be more empathic on them. And the third thing you can do is a long-term strategy, and there are a lot of other things. Of course, meditation, guided visualizations, things that bring you more peace. Over time, your vibrations will raise up, and patience will just come as that byproduct I mentioned. Marconics is the energy work that I do. It's not Reiki. It's not some of these other ones. It's marconics, and that actually will raise your vibration little by little. And I find that helped me lose a lot of the impatience that I had. Certain types of energy work will also raise up your vibration and help you shift and let go of some of that heavier stuff, the stuff that makes you impatient, the frustrations, all of those things. Now I'm going to get into those 12 what I call helpful hacks to find patience when you need it, like now. Some of them may take a few minutes, and some of them can be instantaneous depending on how you practice these. So one thing that you can do is to concentrate on enjoying the now, the journey, instead of just the results. Because wherever you are now is what's important. You don't let to need someone else control you or have the power over you. Allow yourself to be present fully right now. And if you are, you're going to find that impatience is not even important to you. It doesn't even come into who you are. The second thing you can do is just breathe. Take 3 slow, deep breaths, and those will help you calm down. It'll help your heart settle a little, help your whole body become just a little more peaceful, which will help you have a little more patience or maybe a little less impatience, depending on where you are. The third thing you can do when you know you're just about to face a situation or a person and they throw you off and you know they make you lose patience is to find a way to go into that situation with peace. Maybe meditate a short time before. This is sort of a tiny bit of preparation. It's not a long-term feel empathy, put yourself in their shoes. It's more of I need to put a bubble around myself. I need to put a bubble around them. I need to put energy into the situation somehow Give yourself that moment or two of peace before you step into the situation, especially with those people that you know bring you a problem. Now, for those that are infamous at causing you problems, I mean, like the ones I just mentioned, but these are like you're in the middle of it and you go, that old counting to 10 actually works pretty well because it gives yourself time to delay any reactions you have to that person. It gives your heart a chance to calm down a little bit, your emotions a chance to not focus on what's causing the impatience. And I know my mom used to say she counted to 10 all the time. She was German and she had the smoldering kind of anger, but when it flashed, it was big. And she didn't let me see it much when I was a kid because she counted to 10. She says, I always went away before I came and punished you because I didn't want to hurt you because I was so angry with you and I had so much impatience for what was happening with you. So she counted to 10 a lot. And I probably gave her lots of things to count to 10 over because I had a lot of fun as a kid. Not a real problem kid, just a little bit of mischief here and there. Nothing major, but just enough. You got to keep the parents on your toes, So some of the other 12 things is number 5 is to delay your response. If you don't have deadlines with the thing, put off returning texts or emails or phone calls until you're ready. Instantaneous response isn't always needed. And sometimes it's not wise. If you're upset, ask yourself if you need time to respond with a clearer head, and maybe then you can work out the situation with the person or respond in a way that you feel better about. Don't let yourself respond out of this impatience if you can help it. The next thing is to visualize. Visualize things working out easily, even if it's just for a split second before you respond. See it in your mind's eye. You can do this before you run into the person as well, like the other things. But if you're just about to lose your patience and you go, no, what would I see happening if I lost my patience? That could be rude. That would hurt. Okay, now take a breath and go, how would it go if I kept my patience? That may help you. The 7th thing is to stop rushing around. Nowadays, everybody is faster and faster. Everything happens faster. Everybody's pace is quicker. The more rushed you are, the more impatient that you're going to be getting. And the more likely that you'll have people get impatient with you because you're kind of forcing them to have this quicker pace that you have. And it won't work out for either of you. You'll feel like they are way too slow and you'll get irritated and annoyed. They won't be responding quickly enough. They won't be keeping up with you. And they will feel rushed and they might make mistakes. There might be a miscommunication because you're not staying in the same kind of energy link where you're going at the same pace. Don't push so hard that others lose patience with you, let alone you losing patience with them. The 8th thing you can do is to refocus on what is working for you in that moment. Even though you feel like your patience may be ready to break down, realize that some things are going well for you. Well, at least somewhere. Some things that you love about the person that's giving you impatience. Some things that perhaps are just that you can say you're grateful for about that person. If you can be more grateful in that moment about whatever is happening instead of losing your patience, you're going to raise your vibration. It's going to go higher and you'll be and have more peace than what you had. And your impatience will just sort of flutter away and the patience and the more peace will come to you. Another thing you can do in that moment is to be extra aware of what causes your impatience. Psychoanalyze yourself while you're losing your impatience. That way you'll kind of refocus your attention instead of being on that person that you just want to yell at or you want to tell them, stop it. You're going to focus on yourself just for that moment. Even if you're ready to break down and say something to them, realize that you can actually figure out why. What button was pushed? Where does it come from? And then figure out what you're learning from this. This one's kind of big because once you know the root cause of why you're impatient, you're going to start reacting differently. You're going to understand where it comes from. So understand what button was pushed, but then look under the layers, dig them out, and figure out where it comes from. You might need some help on that one. Maybe a friend who knows your past can help, or you can talk it out with a coach, a life coach, or a therapist to help you dig deep if you can't figure out why and it's really impacting you big time. The 10th thing you can do is reframe. So while you're in the middle of that situation or with that person, look at it from a fresh perspective. Challenge your negative assumptions. Don't automatically assume something negative is what they're trying to say. Try to reframe the person or the circumstance in a more positive light. Try not to assume the way they're acting is personal. It may not be personal. Maybe that customer service person just had someone die that day, or they just had someone yell at them and they're kind of not in a good place. Something may have happened for that person. Don't assume that it's about you or that the situation is something that you need to fix. It may just be something you need to see a more positive light on. So I'm going to go over the first 10 really quickly just so that you can kind of refresh your mind, and I'm going to give you the last 2. So the first thing was to concentrate on the now, on what's happening right this minute and the journey instead of getting caught up in how the person is making you respond. The second thing is to breathe. Take 3 slow, deep breaths to help you stay calm. The third one is if you know you're about to meet somebody, to either do something that will help bring you, like meditate or focus somehow that will help you face a situation in a better place than where you were, brings you more peace. Count to 10 when you're in the situation, because it's an infamous thing my mom used to do, and she said it worked every time for her. So even if you have to count slow, counting to 10 while someone is driving you crazy can help. Delay your response, whether it's counting to 10 or taking breaths. If you have no deadlines, take some pause before you react to somebody. Don't respond by text immediately. Email, call, let it go to voicemail. Respond in 20 minutes or an hour. Get through whatever you need to get through. Visualize working it out, how it's going to work, even if it's just for a split second. Don't rush too fast. Allow your pace to be a little slower if you need to. That's number 7, because that way you don't have slower people just annoy and give you impatience and frustrate you because they're not coming up to what you need them to do. 8 is to refocus on what is working, to be grateful for what is working right at that moment. And 9 is to be extra aware of what causes your impatience. And this one I wanted to drill in on before so that you understood that not only asking yourself what button was pushed and why did you get impatient, but where does that come from? Is it something from your childhood? What was the root cause of this reason? Where did this button, where did it come from? Because once you know the cause, you can start shifting how you react to it and adjusting that. 10 was to reframe, to change the situation, look at it from a fresh perspective, and not to automatically assume it's something negative or personal against you. Because you may have misunderstood what somebody said. That happens a lot nowadays with texting. You think you got it, but you don't hear their voice. You don't understand the inflections or what they mean. So you might get impatient or even hurt or ruin a friendship because you think they mean one thing and they really didn't. The 11th thing is if the situation feels out of your control, recognizing that may be enough to calm you down. If someone's sick, your vacation's canceled, there's a flat tire, someone is late to meet you, maybe your phone dies unexpectedly or your computer goes into backup mode or something happens in the middle, you might not be able to control what's happening. But you can control how you react, how you choose to react. If you start getting frustrated, if you start feeling angry or something that kind of tips you off, you're heading into impatience, just go, no, I can't control this thing. Why am I getting impatient? It's not going to do me any good. It's just going to wind me up. There's no reason to do it. Sometimes we can't help it. We get wound up. It's true. But you have a choice on how you react once you get to that point. And eventually you'll be able to stop it sooner if you don't like what you're going through. And the last thing is put yourself in the shoes of that other person. This is active listening. Active listening means you need to really listen to what they're saying. Stop thinking of things while they're talking to you. Still your thoughts. Be there specifically for them and see how you do. Don't think about something you want to say to jump in the middle. Don't say, okay, are they done talking yet? Okay, now I can jump in. You're not paying attention. You're not active listening to them. If you're really engaged with someone, you won't get as impatient because you'll be there with them in that moment and in that journey. You'll be able to ask them questions to help them understand themselves more. And that's what I do as a life coach. And I found when I do that with my friends, I'm not questioning them. I'm just being involved and paying more attention. It makes the relationship better. So sometimes I figure, switch the life coach mode on, because that helps everybody. Active listening is a gift to give your friends, because so many people, they don't know how to do it and they simply don't do it. I have a quote that I wanted to do. It's by an author whose name is David Allen. Patience is the calm acceptance that things can happen in a different order than the one you have in mind. His books sound pretty good, and I actually is on my reading list. I haven't read them yet, but I think that this is something that can help you just think about that. Patience is the calm acceptance that things can happen in a different order than the one you have in mind. So if you have things set a certain way, that you know how you want things to go, and that unexpected thing happens, you're not so happy, a calm acceptance can be a good thing or it can be a giving up thing. So make sure that you stay in your moment and your feelings, and you know what you want from a situation. You have a choice how you react. You can feel yourself losing your patience. You can try one of the 12 quick ideas that I mentioned. And you can also go ahead and look at those 3 longer-term things that I talked about. You can practice patience. You can practice it by going from something small to something bigger. You can also work on figuring out a way to become more peaceful, to become better at what you want, how you want to get into this peaceful and really good place, because that's something that will help you as well. And the third thing was to increase your empathy for other people, to really put yourself in their shoes more than active listening even, although that helps you get to understand them more. Look at how they're feeling. Maybe figure out why they're acting a certain way. Feel what they're feeling. Understand it, because that will help you have more patience with them. Impatience will likely generate more conflict and stress, which is counterproductive to probably everything you want. It'll probably escalate problems, and the person you're dealing with will probably not react well. Understand the causes of your impatience and what triggers you, and then you can develop strategies to prevent or to overcome what's happening. And remember, you have the power on how you react to people and to situations. If you react in a way that hurts you or the situation, you've handed that power over to the other person. You can choose to be patient or not. It's really up to you.
Thank you for listening to Connect to Joy. If you love the show, make sure you rate, review, and share this podcast, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Contact the host, Carol DeChaine, with questions and comments, ideas for future episodes, or if you would like to become a guest. And remember, transformation is a journey and not an end destination. So be kind to yourself, because you are already enough to have the joyful, limitless life that you desire.